Brilliant. Good to speak to you, Rebecca. And I know that, you've been looking into the stigma around people with epilepsy and, what happens when they have a seizure in a public place. And you found some very, worrying and harrowing results from that research. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was worrying. And for us, having, kind of done research and talking to people living with the experience time and again, to still be hearing that like nearly 10% of people have had some form of incident where they've either been filmed, laughed at, or even physically assaulted and had things stolen during a seizure. That's pretty serious stuff, and is why we're here today to talk about it.
Absolutely. And yeah, you mentioned being filmed, and just reading that, people us going on social media and searching for themselves to find out if they've been filmed. I mean, that just beggars belief, isn't it, really, that actually happens?
I know, isn't it? And isn't it horrible that that's what they feel they've got to do after, going about a normal day, something happening that they have no control over, and then they have to go and think, what are they thinking? I want to check that no one's filmed me. I mean, that's just a horrible thought.
Just imagining, someone coming around from a seizure, and they're going to be faced by lots of people with their camera phones. I mean, this is definitely a bad side of social media, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to be fair to people, it's they don't understand. They don't understand what's happening, and that's what we can do. We can give them that understanding, and we can get them to start thinking about it in a more responsible way.
Yeah. I mean, why don't people have the understanding? Why do you think people don't sort of understand epilepsy?
Yeah, I mean, it's that sort of, it's the whole same old thing, isn't it? Where if you haven't had the training, if you haven't met someone who has epilepsy, or a family or friend, friend has talked about epilepsy, then there's just that level of not understanding it that makes you nervous and potentially makes you do things that really aren't helpful. And that's why we're saying to everyone, we've got this great new video that's really simple to watch. We've got this, talking about care. All you need to do is care, and the steps that means. And it's really just trying to say to people, this isn't difficult. But actually, by doing this, by understanding how you would react to someone with epilepsy, then you'll make their lives so much better.
And it can be very scary if someone has not experienced someone having a seizure before and they find themselves in that situation. So, I mean, there's all sorts of things that people are doing, trying to restrain people, things like that just aren't the right thing to do. So, in that situation, if you're out, out in public somewhere and someone's having a seizure, I mean, what would be the correct thing to do?
Yeah, okay, so just really briefly then, so the care, saying the word care, the 4 letters, we've kind of got four things that we're saying to people. So first thing is comfort them, make sure that if they're on the floor, that they've got something cushioning their head, that their sort of airways, they can, breathe, they're in a position where they can breathe easily. And then the A is for action. So the things you can do are look and see if they've got any information on them about having seizures. People who regularly have seizures will be carrying something with them, and it might be on a bracelet, might be around their neck, might be in their bag, but there's usually something to say, I have seizures, please do these things. And the other thing at the same time is to try and time the seizure, or get someone else who's there to time it, because that's really important when it comes to kind of the last stage. And then the R stands for reassure. So we're just asking, just stay with someone, don't restrain them. Absolutely, that's not the thing to do. Just talk to them. And as they're coming out of consciousness, out becoming conscious again, make sure you're there just talking to them and making them feel better. And then the final thing is the emergency element. So if it goes on for over 5 minutes, you've got any reason to think it's their first seizure, or they're going to a second seizure, that's when you call the ambulance. That's the stage to do that.
Well, it's great that you put it in those sort of simple terms, so you can go through that sort of checklist in your head if you find yourself. And also, I suppose, not to give anybody having a seizure, anything to eat or drink as well is very important.
Yeah, no, you don't do anything. You're waiting for that 5 minutes almost. That's what you're there for. You're sitting there and you're just there for them to come back round. And obviously, it becomes an emergency if those 5 minutes pass by. So, and that's all people want. It's not much to ask for, really, is it?
No, absolutely not. They don't want to be filmed. They don't want to be robbed or attacked and all these other things. And I mean, just sort of thinking about changing attitudes. And I know, do you think that sort of maybe schools could do more? I know one of your case studies was talking about, being in school, having a seizure, and, the pupils, fellow pupils in the classroom doing the right thing. But the teacher comes in as the adult and says, no, leave the room. So, do you think more in schools around epilepsy and what to do in a seizure?
Absolutely. I mean, what we see is that people access our e-learning programs and our information when they know there is a pupil in their class, whereas actually it would be so much better because not everyone will know they're going to have a seizure. It can happen at any point in your life. And so knowing that before something happens is absolutely key. So all the information is there. It should just be part of basic first aid training, really, to understand what to do.
Yeah, and obviously we take responsibility for our own actions and how we sort of behave in these situations. But venues, I'm thinking about cafes, shopping centres, things in the community. Do you think that from what you found, are they equipped to deal with people who have seizures?
Yeah, again, no, and unless again a member of staff has raised it with them, and as I say, it's not just staff that are going to have a seizure; it is members of the public.
Yeah.
So it needs to be wider than that, and again, all the information's there to access. So there's no excuse really not to understand it.
Absolutely, and this stigma around seizures. It's going to lead to people with epilepsy maybe sort of thinking, okay, I'm not going to go out to a public space, not going to do the things you love, and it's going to have that knock-on effect to mental health, I suppose, with isolation and all the things surrounded by that.
Yeah, and that comes up again, time and again. It's all the knock-on effect, isn't it? If you don't feel comfortable going out, then of course you're then going to feel that's going to impact on your well-being, that's going to impact on where you're going on, for social events, and that's not fair. None of us should have to think like that.
No, so time to take action, time to raise awareness. And I know, we mentioned your sort of CARE acronym. You have lots of resources. How can we find out more about epilepsy and a bit about the work that you do as well?
Yeah, so if you search for Epilepsy Action or epilepsy.org.uk, either of those ways will get you to our website, and there's everything you need to know on there.
Brilliant. Well, Rebecca, really interesting to talk to you. And I think, conversations like this, hopefully, get people thinking and get people taking action as well.